I think games or gamification would be one of it because it's the most exciting and student love rewards.
I do rely on one strategy which called problem-based learning. Okay, this strategy actually engage students that can allow them to solve a real entrepreneurial problem. So the student can relate on what they went through.
Wow!
Yeah.
So that sounds like a very powerful approach. It must really help students to connect the theory to real life situation.
Masa tu, diorang punya tumpuan tu tidak ke arah chalk and talk. Jadi kita akan tarik perhatian diorang menggunakan teknologi. Kadang-kadang kita akan perkenalkan Kahoot ke, quizzes ke, sekadar untuk tarik diorang punya perhatian dahulu, lepas tu baru kita proceed pada cara yang lebih teori. Sekiranya kita bermula dengan Kahoot dan quizzes ataupun aktiviti tapi benda tu tak berkesan. Macam diorang tiba-tiba macam tak pasif, tak minat. Jadi mungkin kita boleh beranjak kepada aktiviti individu. Sebab mungkin bila kumpulan kadang-kadang kita susah nak kawan pada masa tu. Jadi kita akan pergi pada aktiviti individu. So dia bergantung pada situasi semasa tu. Apa yang menyebabkan tak berkesan. So kita akan cover, kita akan cater situasi yang tak berkesan tu.
I think if nothing works, it is always the best to use your verbal instructions, giving verbal instructions to students, because verbally, I always believe that at the end you have to have face-to-face contact with the students, and when you give verbal instructions, you are able to reconfirm, ask them to repeat themselves and so on.
Alright, so in instructional technique, right? Okay, so usually I will use collaborative learning, in which I will require the students to, work in groups so that they can have like better understanding. Because sometimes one student might not be as good at in this particular topic, so maybe with the help of the others, then they can perform much better.
Like I said just now, it will be gamification, hands-on, because language is not something that is easy. So they have to do things. Sometimes I bring in things for them to do, and also there are a few others too. Okay.
Literally, I use a mixed methods in my teaching. For example, case study method, group work discussion, including team, pair and share. Okay, and the most likely role play that stimulates a real business situation. All this method can actually encourage them to actively participate in their groups.
I love that variety. It seems like you cater to a different learning styles.
So some of the common instructional techniques would be, like I've mentioned just now, verbal communication. But on top of that, giving instructions through written is also helpful, because it is because the students get to always refer to the instructions, especially when there's details involved, like the size of specific type of font that you want, or the specific size of font that you want them to write in, and so on. So yeah, it's verbal and written form.
Well, there are two actually, as far as I can recall.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one is direct instruction, and the second one is blended learning. So, need me to elaborate on that? No.
Contoh, subtopik tu ada dalam 5 subtopik. Sebab agak banyak untuk cover dalam kelas. Jadi, kita akan bagi pada kumpulan. Contoh ada 5 subtopik, so kita akan ada, satu kumpulan tu akan ada 5 orang. Okay, jadi orang pertama ni dia akan jadi master untuk topik 1, master topik 2, master topik 3, topik 4 dan topik 5. Jadi master ni, ini untuk kumpulan 1, ini kumpulan 2. Jadi master untuk kumpulan 1 dia akan berkumpul setempat dan diorang akan bincang brainstorm. Master kumpulan 2 setempat, master kumpulan 3 setempat, dan keempat dan kelima lah. So diorang akan bincang, diorang akan berkongsi apa yang diorang tahu mengenai tajuk satu tu. Orang pun akan berkongsi. So sekiranya ada masalah ke tak faham ke, diorang akan bincang sama diorang untuk bab tu saja. Ya. Lepas tu baru dia patah balik pada kumpulan dia untuk menceritakan yang kemahiran yang diorang ada tu.
Yang dapat pada
ya, jadi kita akan share satu. Jadi dalam satu kelas tu kita dah boleh cover 5 subtopik macam tu.
but based on my experience, FKM students have different learning abilities actually.
Yeah.
So I managed to get one-to-one feedback after class in order to make sure that I understand the topic is going on. So the way I discuss and communicate with them one-to-one, it always works.
That makes a lot of sense. So providing personalized feedback also is very important.
Normally, it would be in terms of support because some students need more support than the others, or maybe putting them in groups with different abilities so that they will have someone who's able to help them.
Alright.
So untuk kekuatan yang berbeza ni, kita kena, dia macam ni. Dia bergantung kepada topik yang kita nak ajar tu. Sekiranya topik tu agak berat dan ada pelajar yang lemah, ada pelajar yang laju lah. Untuk topik yang berat, kita tak boleh terus tarik pelajar yang lemah ni. So kita kena bergerak perlahan sikit lah. Jadi mungkin antara yang paling besar adalah kita akan buat aktiviti berkumpulan. Dan kita akan campur kumpulan tu, ada pelajar lemah dan ada pelajar yang laju. Kita tak boleh buat, tak boleh biar dia orang pilih sendiri. Sebab kalau orang pilih, dia akan pilih sama-sama kepala kan. Jadi kita kena pilih yang grup macam tu. Jadi bila aktiviti kumpulan tu, dia akan sekurang-kurangnya kawan yang bagus ni dia akan bantu kawan yang lemah ni.
I as a teacher, I can only plan and I can only hope for the best and hope that the students would understand, right? But as a teacher also would make me aware that the students are of different probably abilities and different interests and has different backgrounds and have different learning styles. So for that, it is always helpful to plan a lesson thinking of this, bearing in mind that these are the group of people that I'm aiming for. So the materials, the activities, everything has to plan, cannot be catering to just one group of people, but at least 2 or 3 different types of people. So on top of just focusing on visuals, you can also create activities that involve physical movement, maybe, and so on. Okay.
Alright, so still I will usually go with these 2 techniques. The first one is, at the end of the lesson, so before we end the lesson, usually we will recap. So by recapping, it will allow the students to recall what they have learned before, and that will facilitate their understanding much better. That's number one. The second one is the exercise. Usually we will give them simple exercises for them to jog their memories again. Then maybe they will have this is something new that I've learned in this class. Yeah. Okay, so in my case, I usually use 3 tools, I would say. The first one is a module, the second one is the prepared slides, and the third one is the live tools. For example, when we talk about live tools, the students need to do minutes of meeting, for example, and then they will need to use the computer applications. True, all students might have used the applications before, but they might not know about the details of using it. For example, the margination, how to set the margins and whatnot. So yeah, that's one. And then I also prepare slides for them, the simplified version of the module. And if things seem to be out of control just a little bit, when the students seem not to understand, then I will make sure that they will use the modules, and then they can read the modules.
The materials used are quite variety. I guess it depends on the lesson and the requirement, the goal. Sometimes I only use formal materials like the modules, the book, or the worksheets. But some other times, technology is also very important. The use of slides, the use of games, the use of apps, the use of physical games, cards also is also part of a huge part of my teaching.
Try to vary.
Module
I try to vary because I would always imagine myself as students. I wouldn't want to always look at the textbooks. I wouldn't want to always have handouts. So I would make sure that at least in the near lesson, I wouldn't repeat the same kind of techniques.
So do you always have other outside book or just
I love to buy books on materials, and I also go online to search for a lot of free sites now.
alright.
For my teaching, usually I'm using combination of handouts or videos that related to my topics. Business simulation, for example, student project should be implemented in real business. So those students will sell their products within specific time and location is still in the campus.
Wow, it's great to see that you use a lot and also variety of resources.
Contoh kalau saya, dalam matematik dia akan ada tajuk contoh macam graf. Kalau graf ni kita tak sesuai untuk ajar di whiteboard sebab pelajar tak nampak cara untuk kita plot graf dan sebagainya. Jadi kalau itu saya akan gunakan teknik penggunaan iPad lah, iPad dengan paparan skrin. Jadi kita akan tunjuk one by one macam mana cara nak plot graf tu dan macam mana cara nak menyambungkan graf tu. Sebab itu lebih mudah bagi pelajar. Kalau kita sekadar explain di whiteboard, dia tak nampak benda tu sebenarnya.
Dia kena
dia kena tepat
kan?
tepat kata graf tu. Jadi kita akan gunakan kata graf secara tablet macam tu. Tapi sekiranya contoh benda-benda yang melibatkan objek 3D ataupun objek 2D, yang tu kita kena bawa benda-benda fizikal yang dia orang boleh sentuh. Contoh kita nak buat bentangan ke apa kan, dia kena nampak macam daripada 3D tu dia bentang jadi 2D. Dan bentang balik jadi 3D. So yang tu memerlukan objek fizikal. So dia bergantung pada topik lah, tapi kita ada beberapa bahan-bahan mengajar untuk setiap topik yang berkenaan tu.
Alright, well, being students, I think you and I were once students. We know that students don't always respond well to you. Depends on their mood, depends on the time of the day. So if what I have planned, it didn't work out on that day, so I'm going to be very quick at changing the way I approach things. So if I feel that they are sleepy, maybe I change a little bit. Or if it's too much for them, then maybe I'll cut short some of it.
It depends. Okay, sometimes the aware response, there's a little bit students that don't respond at all. What I did was I formed them into a small groups and then facilitate them with deeper conversation and discussion throughout the session, or one-to-one opinion based on their lesson session. So they are more focused and it also works on it.
Wow, that adaptability is the key. So it's very interesting.
Definitely, if something doesn't work in class, you are supposed to be able to cater to your situation, right? I guess after a while of teaching, you kind of have some backups. Even though you have planned a lesson for the day, you always have a backup. So in terms of my instructional technique, because my group of students currently are young adults, diploma students, I don't really feel like they have much problems when I'm giving them the instruction. In fact, most of them, when I ask if they have any problem, none. They would say no, they don't have any problem. However, I also create a consultation sessions where I require the students to come and show me their progress, because I believe if they do have problems understanding, they would have shown me throughout the progress.
Well, actually, most of the times it works well, but there are moments in which usually when the class is in the afternoon or late in the evening, then I think the students will not be really be focused on whatever it is that we are teaching. So yeah, impromptu comes all the way.
Tenung lama dia tak faham. Ada yang pelajar lain tu dia faham. Jadi bila dalam situasi macam tu, kita kena ubah. Memang nak tak nak kita kena ubah cara kita ini. Kita spontan masa tu. Sebab kalau kita tak kita biar, nanti pelajar yang tak faham tu dia akan selalu tak faham. Jadi kita nak ubah pada aktiviti perkumpulan. Possible tak cukup tak waktu masa tu. Sekiranya kita dalam ibaratnya 10 minit kita habis kelas. Pelajar dah boleh hilang fokus. Tak sesuai nak buat aktiviti perkumpulan. Jadi mungkin 10 minit terakhir tu mungkin kita boleh buat macam quiz menunjuk ke apa ke. Untuk macam kira sekadar untuk tengok sebenarnya mana dia orang dah faham.
One of the ways that I would always do is I would always imagine things being done to me. If I were to do this, would I like it? If I were to go through this lesson, would I understand it? And I would always love to make sure that my lesson it's synchronized, meaning that there is relevance from one to another. I will try my best. Okay.
So to see if the method is effective to us before we
Yes. And I'm a planner, so I always plan this. So from the plan, I know that okay, I wouldn't just go in and teach anything that I can find at hand. Things like that.
I usually assess from the students through the formative and summative methods. So it derives from the quizzes, the assessment, presentation. For example, my students do a pitching of business ideas and also getting feedback from the students at the end of the class. So these are the ways to indicate their understanding.
Wow, very good. Sounds good. So
Definitely a lot of assessment, different types of assessments, probably formal assessments like tests or exams would be a way to see whether they have understood what was taught and the instructions given to the students. However, the assessment can also be very informal. It can be very relaxed. It doesn't have to be so scary, right? So things like games might be a way, or small, very fun activities can show and give us some sort of information whether the students have understood what was taught.
Okay, there are two I could think of. Number one is before we start the lesson, every lesson, and then I will make sure that they know the objectives of the lessons for the day. That's number one. And number two is by giving them continuous assessments. Yeah.
Sama ada kita pakai digital classroom, one stage, two straight, ataupun kita akan pakai chalk and talk. Kadang-kadang kita menggunakan teknologi seperti tablet apa untuk menunjukkan supaya lebih mudah nampak. So kita ubah dari segi tu lah, sebab kalau kita asyik chalk and talk saja, pelajar akan bosan. Kalau kita asyik buat aktiviti kumpulan saja, dia kadang-kadang bila aktiviti berkumpulan ni ada pelajar-pelajar yang contohlah biasanya pelajar yang laju, pelajar yang kita panggil sebagai apa ni, yang high performance pelajar. Pelajar yang high performance ni kebiasaan tidak berminat untuk aktiviti berkumpulan. Jadi macam bila kita terlalu banyak buat aktiviti kumpulan, pelajar yang high performance dia akan tend untuk bosan.
Open-ended questions. Usually I will ask them open-ended questions like their opinions on this, or what do they think about this person's speech, for example. Yeah. And number two is that sometimes the students seem to be out of focus for a bit, because we cannot run away from the fact that mobile phones are one of the what do you call that, distractions, yeah? I would say so. So just call them by their names, then they will be more alert. Yeah.
So one of the techniques to involve as many people as possible in the class would definitely group discussion or group presentation, where the students will have to sit in groups, they have to discuss, they have to prepare something, they have to plan in a group before they do something else. Maybe they have to share their findings and the what they have decided in groups and so on. So On top of that, their sharing can also involve writing on a whiteboard or writing in a website where everyone can read and respond.
There's a lot discussion, pairing, rewarding, asking questions. I mean, there is no one particular technique that works every time. It depends on the topic, depends on the lesson, and depends on your students. Right?
So different class,
Different class, different technique. But I've tried a lot.
I ensure participation by assigning work itself. For example, a work group for brainstorming session and presentation, and this also will help to create a collaborative environment.
So interactive tools can make a very huge difference in class.
Peribahasa penuh, macam saya cakap tadi, kebiasaannya bila kita buat aktiviti berkumpulan ni, okay, kalau pelajar yang lama-lama ni, dia akan jadi macam orang panggil apa ni, apa ni, penuh sleeping partner. Dia kena sleeping partner. So dia tidak buat kerja, dia akan duduk je. Duduk tengok je, sebab dia tahu ada orang akan jawab untuk dia. Jadi kita kena cari satu aktiviti yang mana kita akan wajibkan semua pelajar jawab. Antara yang saya selalu pakai, saya libatkan satu kelas. Okay, kita ada dalam contoh ada dalam 20 soalan. Ataupun ada satu soalan je, satu soalan yang kebat, yang panjang, yang memerlukan pemikiran kan. Okay, awak keluar buat satu line saja. Jadi akan buat penjelasan satu line. Orang berikut di sebelah dia kena sambung kerja dia. Jadi nak tak nak, orang tu terpaksa fikir cara kawan dia fikir. Mungkin orang ni fikir cara A, orang ni fikir cara B. Tapi sebab orang A ni dah buat dulu, jadi nak tak nak awak kena push diri awak untuk faham cara A ni. Jadi kita akan sambung sesama sampai dapat jawapan akhir. Jadi dia secara tak langsung dah kerja sama lah. Kira kalau seorang salah, yang belakang tu akan salah lah. Gitu. Jadi itu secara tak langsung ni macam kiranya aktiviti berkumpulan lah juga, tapi satu kelas, melibatkan satu kelas. Semua orang akan kena.
In the world today, it's impossible for me. Although I'm not a tech-savvy person, it's impossible not to incorporate because that's what the students have.
Yes.
So I have to learn, and how is by either we project things, we show them things, we do interactive quizzes, or just do some interactive things basically online, or just finding materials sometimes.
To catch
Their interest, yes.
Alright. Okay, so
Based on my experience, I integrate technology by using online tools such as AI in education, and digitally sharing assignment and providing feedback from Padlet, Moodles, and also video-based lessons from a YouTube platform and many more.
wow, very interesting.
Okay. Like I said before, usually I will use the computer applications, like if they are doing limit submitting or maybe they're writing their resumes, I will make sure that there are new things that they learn from each and every application that I use. Because if they learn nothing, then it will be like, okay, what's the point of me being in this class and staying here when I learn nothing? So usually I will make sure that there has to be at least something that they learn, something new that they learn. Yeah, so it's a good lesson.
So that's all.
Thank you so very much for having me today.
I guess it depends on what exactly your goals are or the plan for the lesson. So if the lesson involves lecture, then you can always use slides. You can always use apps. There are quite a lot of apps that would help the students to share their thoughts and their ideas, and those apps help the students, help everyone share their thoughts and ideas. And I also incorporate technology basically through everything. Even the teaching part, teaching online requires a lot of technology as well. So for example, the use of Teams, and then assessment, the way they are marked and the way they are written also requires technology. And I guess the list is endless.
Bila kita gunakan teknologi ni, antara yang kebaikannya adalah yang saya kata tadi 3D kepada 2D tu. Yang tu memang diorang tak boleh nampak dengan sekadar membayangkan, sebab tak semua pelajar berotak apa ni, kita ada visual, ada auditory kan. Jadi bila benda-benda yang melibatkan kita, okay, kita cakap-cakap, kita nak suruh expect orang untuk bayang. Pelajar yang visual dia boleh, mungkin dia boleh bayangkan benda tu. Pelajar yang auditory, pelajar read dia mungkin tak nampak benda tu. Jadi teknologi ni dia bantu kita cover, dia akan cover semua sebenarnya. Macam contoh kita paparkan contoh slide. Okay, dia ada visual di situ. Lepas tu bila kita cakap, kita explain slide tu, okay, nanti auditory boleh faham. Lepas tu kita kena buat juga praktikal dalam kelas. Ibarat macam ada benda-benda objek 3D kalau abang mengajar tadi tu. So pelajar yang kinestetik tu dia boleh. Benda-benda tu kan. Jadi kiranya ketiga-tiga tu kita kena gabungkan. Jadi cara untuk gabungkan adalah dengan menggunakan teknologi. Kalau sekadar cakap dalam kelas chalk and talk, kita takkan dapat benda tu. Sebab kita sekadar whiteboard kan, nulis, cakap. Jadi budak yang kinestetik ni dia akan tertinggal lah. Sebab dia kena buat aktiviti, dia tertinggal. Dia kena pegang something, jadi dia tertinggal. Budak yang auditory tak ada masalah, dia tengok kan. Budak yang visual dia tengok, yang auditory dia dengar, tak ada masalah. Budak kinestetik ke read dia akan tertinggal lah. Kan ada banyak lagi kan yang kan. Jadi tertinggal.